Hello, good morning. Welcome you all to this nearly carbon neutral conference on the world in 2050, imagining and creating just planet futures. I am Pooja Agarwal from IIT Kanpur, India, and the title of my talk is Simulating Futures and Inquiring into the Efficacy of Glyphide as a Literary Genre of the Anthropocene. What is climate change? Climate change refers to a long-term shift in weather conditions, a long-term variation in weather patterns and climate patterns over an extended period of time, and that is observable in changes in temperature, precipitation, wind, etc. Climate change is a grave contemporary concern, and humans have altered their environment to the extent that anthropogenic climate change has become a lived reality of the 21st century. Humans have altered their environment ever since the discovery of fire, ever since the advent of civilization, but it has accelerated greatly since the Industrial Revolution, since the 18th and 19th century Industrial Revolution. The impact that humans are having on the environment has greatly accelerated, and it cannot be debated that Industrial Revolution becomes a starting point of what we now refer to as the Anthropocene. Anthropocene is a geological epoch which scientists propose that instead of Holocene, the current geological epoch, which started in 9700 BCE, which is an insufficient, inadequate name to refer to what we are living in, our present contemporaneity. The scientists like Crutzen and Stromer, Paul J. Crutzen and Eugene Stromer, they propose instead Anthropocene as a term that we should adopt, which refers to the human intervention into the environment. The humans have led to anthropogenic climate change, there is rise in temperature, global warming, which is also the effect of depletion of ozone layer, burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, industrial emissions, and also environmental pollution, including pollution emitting from traffic, heavy traffic, vehicles, cars, etc. Paul J. Crutzen and Eugene F. Stromer proposed the term Anthropocene in year 2000. It refers to human intervention into environment to the extent that pristine nature has been lost. No part of planet Earth is left untouched by human activity. So much so that now, because of the depletion of ozone layer, because of the melting of Arctic ice, it is claimed that pristine nature is lost and forever. Human activity has touched even the uninhabited parts of our planet Earth. And as such, we live in Anthropocene, that is an era altered by human activity and altered by human intervention into the environment. But where climate change is concerned, it is a grave contemporary concern, but there is a paradox of sorts, because it is a concern which afflicts entire humanity at the global scale. It afflicts men and women alike, it afflicts people from all races, all classes, everybody. And yet there is a paradox that it is many a times not perceived. In fact, most of the times either not perceived or not talked about. Bruno Latour refers to this paradox as climato-quietism. And similarly, Stephen Silberstein has referred to this as meta-silence. By climate-quietism and by meta-silence, I mean a certain denial to accept that climate change is occurring, has happened, and that we are living in Anthropocene. There is a very valid reason why this is happening. It is happening majorly because a layman is most often not able to perceive the impact of climate change. A layman is not able to perceive the threat that climate change poses on our environment. A layperson goes on with life without understanding the implications of climate change, and it is here that I concede that literary narratives play a very significant role in raising a certain global consciousness. The literary narratives have the prerogative to shake the status quo, to question the normative, the established. And let's see how literature has done this in the past. Let's see a few examples of how this has been done. Literature is not only about what is, but also about what could be and what should be. There is an aspirational value attached to literature. Where climate change is concerned, although I'll come to it later, climate change narratives, which are referred to as climate fiction or cli-fi, are more than often dystopian in nature. By dystopia, I mean they portray a society which is significantly negative, worse than the contemporary society. Because these narratives, they basically are trying to portray that what will happen if we continue with our unchecked ways. Even these dystopian narratives have the potential to raise environmental consciousness, have the potential to warn a reader, and that is why they become so pertinent. A very brief look at how literature in the past has had a very significant impact on society. I'm just looking at a couple of examples. The list is not exhaustive, but just to get a feel of how powerful literature has been and continues to be. The 1851 narrative, Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe, woke up a sleeping USA to the ills of racism. Similarly, the 1906 narrative, The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, exposed the horror of Chicago's meat packaging industry, so much so that the then President Roosevelt, commissioned an investigation into the industry. Similarly, Rachel Carson's groundbreaking study on the ill effects of pesticides, Silent Spring, published 1962, was instrumental in establishment of the US Environmental Protection Agency. It is true that literature plays a very significant role. It is also true that literature hitherto has had a very dichotomous relationship with natural and hard sciences. Humanities have had a dichotomous relationship with natural and hard sciences. But it is very important that the two collaborate to address pertinent issues, environmental issues, issues that afflict humanity on a global scale. I was talking about climate-quietism and about meta-silence. And there are insights from psychology which provide us with details on why there is this climate-quietism or meta-silence, why this denial of this threat which is in front of us, which we are living every day. According to the American Psychological Association, people do not directly experience climate change. They experience representations of climate change that are presented to them via various media and educational sources and personal interactions, and influenced by such presentations, they may interpret certain events they do experience, such as hurricanes or wildfires, as manifestations of climate change. And I would like to add here that basically humanity is living on the verge where environmental apocalypse seems like an inevitability, and yet humanity is not waking up to it because a layperson sometimes may not experience the enormity of the impact. We have had millions of population being displaced by hurricanes and being displaced by tsunamis, but for those who have only experienced this through media coverage, they are not more than often not able to perceive the enormity. And thus it is here that literary narratives can simulate a certain sense of danger, simulate a certain sense of risk, and educate the reader. I would like to quote here Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert. Gilbert has done extensive study on why climate-quietism, on why meta-silence where climate change is concerned. I quote, "We are the progeny of people who hunted and gathered, whose lives were brief, and whose greatest threat was a man with a stick. When terrorists attack, we respond with crushing force and firm resolve, just as our ancestors would have. Global warming is a deadly threat precisely because it fails to trip the brain's alarm, leaving us soundly asleep in a burning bed." Quote close. It is evident from this quote that we are not able to perceive the enormity of the situation because we may not experience it, or what we may experience, we will not attribute that experience to the global phenomena of climate change. The natural cycle of seasons, the natural cycle of climate has been altered, and that has been altered because of anthropogenic activities. That has been altered because there has been depletion in the ozone layer. That has been altered because global warming has come to raise the temperature of our planet, so much so that Arctic ice has melted, glaciers are melting, sea level is rising, flooding is on increase. It is important to address these concerns in literature, in a fictive, imaginative narrative. It becomes important because through imaginative narrative, futures can be simulated that futures which are often relegated to unseen, unexperienced time. That futures which are always relegated, which are always deferred. A lay person always defers the problem of climate change because he or she may think that climate change will occur is not occurring but will occur sometime in future. And thus the enormity of the situation is always deferred. It is never understood as being here and now. There's an entire genre of narratives that address the ecological concerns ranging from climate change to loss of habitat, endangerment of species, pollution, increase in population, and I am going to grapple with both over here. Narratives that overtly address the concern of climate change are called climate fiction or cli-fi. Dan Bloom coined the term climate fiction or cli-fi in 2008 to designate a certain category to such literary narratives that overtly address the concern of climate change. Alongside climate change, another term which is recent and which has become very popular and was very pertinent in literary circles is eco-fiction, which is ecologically oriented fiction. Ecologically oriented fiction is basically those narratives that address environmental problems in their web and woof of plot. The eco-fiction cli-fi is different from traditional nature writing, and let's see how it is different from traditional nature writing. Nature has been part of literary discourse since antiquity. There have been pastorals, there have been elegies, there have been a whole number of narratives which talk about nature. In fact, the British Romantics and the American Transcendentalists backgrounded nature in every narrative. They talked about nature, they talked about the exploration of self through nature. But how is that writing different from what I term, or what has been termed, what I refer to as eco-fiction and climate fiction, and what has been termed as eco-fiction and climate fiction? How is this nature writing different? First of all, nature writing, nature is always backgrounded. Alan Lew, the famous Wordsworthian critic, in fact has sees charges against the Romantics that they were only exploring the human self through nature. Nature remains a background, whereas in eco-fiction and climate fiction, nature becomes the central aspect of a plot. The plot revolves around environmental concerns. The plot is in fact determined by the changes in environment, and plot is also even the characters seem to be affected by environmental issues. Further, nature is also anthropomorphized in traditional nature writing. Classic examples would be Bronte, Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights, or Thomas Hardy's Return of the Native, where nature, although the characters and natures are entwined, but nature reflects the emotions of the characters, and nature does not in that way decide or define the course of the plot. Whereas the climate fiction and eco-fiction narratives that I'm going to talk about and give examples of now are those in which it is the environmental issues that decide how the plot will move, or which become the central aspect of any plot. Further, nature writing is very apolitical in nature. It relishes in pristineness of nature, whereas what cli-fi and eco-fiction do, they problematize humans' relationship with nature. They problematize and politicize humans' relationship with nature. I would like to quote here Patrick Murphy, who has done extensive work on eco-fiction. And according to Murphy, eco-fiction does not stop at describing the natural history of area, but instead, or in addition, discusses the ways in which pollution, urbanization, and other forms of human intervention have altered the land of environment. It treats human action in defense or in behalf of wild and endangered nature. It is becoming quite clear that eco-fiction concentrates not on characters but on how characters are affected by environmental changes. It concentrates not on unfolding of the plot but how unfolding of the plot is determined by environmental changes. Eco-fiction emerged in the wake of the 1960s environmental movement. Ecofiction is also largely a subset of science fiction and utopian literature, and very briefly I'll touch upon these two terms. Science fiction, we all are aware of, are basically narratives which foreground science, the impact of science on society. And utopia is a term which has come into contingency since 1516 publication of Thomas More's Utopia, the eponymous treatise. And utopia is now synonymous with an alternate society. Both science fiction and utopian narratives are narratives of spatiality. They describe alternate spaces. And by describing alternative societies, they basically try to visualize, conjure up societies that are different from author's own society, and they try to conjure up societies that may be significantly better in case of utopia, or maybe far worse in case of dystopia. Both ecofiction is understood as a subset of science fiction and utopian writing, basically because in ecofiction, place remains priority. Conjuring up or imagining a whole new place which has been altered with an altered environment remains the major priority in ecofiction. And that is why it is understood as a subset of science fiction or utopian writing. These terms are very overlapping. It becomes difficult to actually draw a line between where one stops and where the other begins, where one ceases to exist and where the other starts. They are just terms that are overarching terms that I'm using loosely over here just to identify those narratives that prioritize space, that depict a different space. And by depicting a different space, a different society, they become narratives of spatiality. And by becoming narratives of spatiality, they also talk about different environments, reflecting those spaces. And most of the times, climate fiction is dystopian in nature and is also set in an imagined future. It is written with the aim to warn the readers, and with that aim, it is usually dystopian in nature. I'm giving you here some examples of fictive narratives that foreground climate change and that emerge as climate fiction. The list is of course not exhaustive, but just a few examples. T.C. Boyle's A Friend of the Earth, 2000 publication. Kim Stanley Robinson's Science in the Capital trilogy, published between 2004 and 2007. Margaret Atwood's The Year of the Flood, 2009. Jim Lafter's Polar City Red, 2012. And Barbara Kingslauer's Flight Behavior, 2012. Just over here, I would like to talk about a couple of these narratives and see how climate fiction is a central concern of these narratives. In T.C. Boyle's A Friend of the Earth, which is set in 2025 in California, global warming has led to weather being erratic. There is incessant rainfall and sudden thunderstorms, so much so that they have become everyday phenomena. And also, there is loss of habitat because of deforestation, because of change in climate conditions, and resulting in extinction of species and endangerment. In Margaret Atwood's The Year of the Flood, which is set in an unspecified future, Atwood touches on many topics, on many subjects, on many issues, and climate remains the background. Climate also remains the main trajectory which binds all these issues together. It is set in a post-apocalyptic future. Sun has become bigger and hotter, problem of skin cancer due to increased radiation, and Atwood also touches on issues like bioengineering, gene mutation, and how humans are used as subjects of experiment for drugs. Basically, Atwood points out at excessive human intervention into nature and what is natural, and the adverse effects that it has on the humanity. Climate change remains the central concern of this narrative, and it is because of climate change there is displacement of population, there is displacement of characters. Amanda is a character in The Year of the Flood, whose parents, whose entire family displaced because of changes in climate. In Jim Lafter's Polar City Red, which is published as recent as 2012, the world, it is set in the year 2075, it is a post-apocalyptic narrative set in the year 2075. Earth has become totally unfit for inhabitation because of the global warming. The temperature has risen so much that lower latitudes have become completely unfit for human habitation, and now only Arctic regions. An attempt is made to form autonomous cities in the Arctic region, and these cities, which seem utopian, in fact turn out to be dystopian, are determined by concerns of climate change, population, and also inequality amongst the humans. Climate fiction is an emerging genre. It is a genre that tries to address climate change and make climate change a central concern of its narrative. Also, climate change narratives foreground, as I already said, they foreground certain concerns. I would like to quote here a very famous critic, a very known critic, Adeline Jones-Withrow, who says that literature invites us to inhabit other worlds and live other lives. Cli-fi, at its best, lets us travel to climate-changed worlds, to stride there alongside others and then to return armed with that experience. Quote close. Basically, climate change discourse, as of now, is limited to political and scientific circles because layperson is not able to perceive the enormity of the situation. A layperson may not be able to perceive the enormity of the situation because a layperson may not be experiencing a direct impact of climate change or may not be attributing what he or she is experiencing as an impact of climate change. And thus, these fictive narratives which simulate futures, which simulate post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic or catastrophic futures, have the ability to shake the reader out of complacency. For Risa Baer, climate fiction is written to show you a future, to prevent. They are not written as narratives that tell you that if we do this, we will reach here, and if we do that, we will reach there. These are words by Kim Stanley Robinson, the much renowned science fiction writer. He has used these words in his future primitive. My next question is, can a literary genre help save the planet? Actually, it is not my question. This was a question asked to Daniel Bloom in an interview. Can a literary genre help save the planet? Let's grapple this systematically. In 2004, in November 2004, After the Day After Tomorrow was released, which is a cinematic treat on how climate change can afflict humanity and how climate change can come to plague our planet. There was a study conducted by the National Science Foundation, USA, and according to the study, which was published in November under the auspices of the National Science Foundation, there definitely is a significant alteration in individual consciousness, but the study also admitted that this impact of alteration in consciousness is very temporary. The study does admit this. But one cannot undermine that there was a significant impact and that the readers, or in this case the viewers, were forced to rethink their ways. It is also true that a systematic data correlating fiction with definite change in human consciousness remains unquantifiable. Yes, there are studies which are happening, but it still remains unquantifiable that this amount of readership has led to this kind of change. That kind of systematic data remains unquantifiable, but this should not deter us from reading, writing, producing and consuming works of fiction that keep on questioning status quo, that keep on challenging our ways. And right now, in 21st century, our gravest concern is in fact climate change. President Barack Obama, in his address in Madison Avenue, identified climate change as the gravest concern, even graver than terrorism for that matter. And thus, it cannot be undermined, its enormity cannot be undermined, and the need to address such issues cannot be undermined. Can a literary genre help save the planet? While writing cli-fi or eco-fiction, writing this is a creative enterprise that is undertaken individually by a single author. At a time, authors not only envisage an altered planet, reeling under ecological crisis, but also attempt to provide solutions, some probable, other fantastic. What I'm trying to say here is that basically writers sometimes offer solutions, sometimes trying to envisage a probable solution to the problem of climate change. But these are individual solutions provided by individual writers. They may not amount to any practical change, but they are written, they are read, written, perceived and envisaged with a certain vision, a vision of a better tomorrow. There is an undying hope in this vision, and that undying hope cannot be undermined. It may be debated that these narratives do not churn out any plausible solutions, but they do help in raising certain ecological consciousness. And I concede here that it is very pertinent that these narratives be read and also be written, because they have the potential to shake a reader out of complacency. I would like to leave you with a couple of quotes here. The first one from Donna Haraway, and she says, "Stories are much bigger than ideologies, in that is our hope." The next quote is by Stephen Silverstein, who has extensively worked on climate change. According to Silverstein, science can tell us how we got to the Anthropocene, but it takes art to tell us what it's like to live, what it's like to be human in the Anthropocene era. Thus, humanities have to work hand in hand with the sciences to not only educate the layperson, but also to inspire every man, every woman, every human to work towards a certain change, work towards a sustained ecological balance. This can only happen when individual consciousness is changed. This can only happen when change is brought about at a micro level. Policies are being framed, laws are being framed at the macro level. At the very micro level, it is important to change the individual human consciousness. If today I read a narrative and tomorrow I decide on the basis of that narrative, on the basis of the impression that that narrative has left on me, if I decide to bring about a minutest change in my lifestyle, say not taking printed bills for whatever, for my phone, for my electricity, and just refusing to take printed bills and just get alerts on telephone. Smallest of changes, if I make a change of making my office paper free as much as possible, every small change will accumulate, small change will compound into a definite step towards an environmentally sustainable, better, brighter future. This is my select bibliography, and I have had some very valuable insights from Donna Haraway, Dan Bloom, from Nathaniel Massey, and from Patrick D. Murphy, among others. Thank you.